Hello, Elana. أهلين.
أهلا. السلام عليكم.
Alaikum salam, shalom aleichem. Bienvenida.
Muchas gracias.
Con mucho gusto. Welcome to my home in Costa Rica.
Thank you. So great to be here.
So great to have you. Amazing.
I know. Who would have imagined that we'd be sitting here in Costa Rica working on peace activation in Israel, Palestine?
Yes, I know. It's really, it blows my mind the way that spirit has its own way to really serve us our highest good and the mission that we're here to do.
You know, Eva, I love that about you. Can I tell you one of the things that I love about you?
Sure.
Is that everything always comes back to this like very spiritual goal and a spiritual path. And you do this remarkable thing of connecting the very real, practical, political, social activism with constant focus on the larger spiritual picture. I don't know too many people who do that quite that way, and I really love it. I love soaking all that up, your ability to do all of that at once.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel blessed. I feel blessed by spirit. I feel very connected. I mean, you know, I grew up in Israel, Jewish state, for a Muslim family, being in a Christian school. So spirituality has been my go-to to find sense, to make sense of this real religion who are competing for attention, you know?
And you've been like really enmeshed in all of them at different parts. And then you come here to this space where, you know, it's very much the universal energy.
Feminine energy.
What does that mean?
For me, the energy of Costa Rica is feminine energy in the way that is very receptive, slow, graceful. Costa Rica doesn't have an army, so you feel it in the air. You feel it with the way people interact with each other. There's some kind of softness and tenderness. So it's really, I consider it the antidote of Israel, which is very militarized.
Right.
And you see a lot of Israelis here that I think come for the same reason.
Costa Rica really does feel like the opposite of Israel. First of all, because there's no army, and so you come here and you realize what's possible. It is possible not to have an army. There's also none of that, you know, constant sectarianism. You know, I'm in this group and not in that group. People are just sort of people. There's not this like, you know, excessive emphasis on which, you know, sub-identity you are and who you have to be with and here to be all that tribalism. And also what you're saying about the everydayness of that. I noticed that when I drove here, I told you the story that, you know, I had a 4-hour drive winding through this sort of really treacherous road, the Trans-American Highway. It's a 2-lane highway with a lot of ups and downs and curves and a lot of trucks and a lot of having to wait and a lot of needing patience. And in that entire 4 hours, I did not hear one honk. I did not hear one honk. I did not have one person flashing their lights at me the way I do in Israel. And I didn't realize it until I arrived here. And it's like, oh my God, that is so different. And it is possible. First of all, it is possible to live without that. And also it was this realization that the entire sort of so tense, you know, you're living with all of this war, this like daily war, it affects you in a zillion ways. In
a zillion way, and you're unconscious of it. Actually, it feels so normal, and I think we've normalized violence and militarism so much in our society in general, but specifically in Israel, as if there's no other choice other than protect and defend. And I love this about. I mean, that's one of the reason why we came to Costa Rica 12 years ago to give birth to my firstborn, my first son. And it was specifically because there was no army here. I really didn't want to have the energy of birth in a place that is so militarized, so violent, whether it's Israel or the States, the US, because at the time we were living in America, in North America. And I find like there's something about, you were asking feminine energy, there's not something about being surrounded by nature, by the pace of nature, observing how trees and plant and flower grow and the time that it takes, you know. It's like you plant a seed, it's not going to be ready tomorrow. you're going to have to water it and nurture it and visit it and revisit it and adjust and be patient. And patience, you know, is not my medicine. So living here in Costa Rica had taught me a lot about patience. It taught me a lot about softness, tenderness, and just the whole revolution, an inside revolution that feels good to settle in.
I've been meeting a lot of Israelis since I'm here.
Yeah.
I was really surprised to discover that there's a whole Israeli community here that you often host for groups and gatherings and peace activation.
Yeah, we do peace activation in Hebrew here in my home in Caña Blanca. I'm doing it with a dear friend, an Israeli Jewish that also has moved here 5 years ago. And you find a lot of Israeli coming here attracted by this energy. Attracted by this feminine energy, attracted by nature. Some of them cannot not recreate the Israeli syndrome.
What's the Israeli syndrome?
Of staying together, negotiating the best price, paying the lowest, and like different stereotype that people have. And then you're like, when in the interaction, like, oh yeah, I recognize that. But at the same time, so much support, community support, but also protective. And so for me to open this home as a Palestinian was really important. To say, okay, we need to activate peace, and we need to meet each other in this land in a way that we can hear each other's narrative without judgment, with a high dose of compassionate self-forgiveness, and really be present to what is alive for us that is not necessarily alive for the other, but that doesn't deny the experience. And for me, that's really the core of